story of the ancient Vikings who went down to the sea in ships and defiantly conquered the proverbial demons of the deep, while a primitive world trembled in fear and superstition, is the first written chapter in the history of Norway, a history that is literally interwoven with the sea, which has pounded upon the shores of Norway for countless ages and broken its rambling coastline into numerous and magnificent sea-flooded valleys known as fjords. We are now sailing into one of the most picturesque of the southern fjords. This calm and peaceful fairyland of nature hardly associates itself with the valiant and warlike Vikings who once rowed their rugged boats up and down these fjords, churning the water with their oars and echoing their shouts of martial victory through the hills and the valleys. As it is with most countries that are limited in natural resources, Norway has suffered considerably from migration. And although in land area it is one of the largest countries in Europe, its total population today does not exceed 3 million inhabitants. Nevertheless, in spite of the material limitations that nature seems to have placed upon their chances for development, the Norwegians are a very independent people, and they boast that there is neither great wealth nor abject poverty among them. In other words, the human budget of Norway appears to have been balanced in a manner that automatically eliminates class distinction, thereby avoiding the extremes of poverty and riches, which seem to bring so much unhappiness to other countries. Only 5% of the land is tillable, and this is broken up into thousands of little farms, most of which are devoted to the growing of hay. Not only on the larger farms in the valleys, but also on the tiny plots among the nooks and crevices of the mountains, hay is laboriously gathered during the brief summer months, and every member of the family, sooner or later, joins in this important occupation. It is said that the infant mortality scale in Norway is lower than anywhere else in the world, and this may be one of the reasons why. Home life in this quaint country is comparatively simple, the native people depending chiefly upon farming, fishing, and tourist trade for a livelihood. A modest cottage, an acre of ground, and a pony comprise the worldly goods of the average Norwegian peasant. Nevertheless, the peasants of Norway enjoy the distinction of never having been serfs, but always free men and owners of the soil upon which they live, a fact that is most unique in Europe. Eternally towering over and around the Norwegians are the magnificent mountains and fjords, natural wonders of the world, which seem to be so far aloof from human life that people are literally lost in the colossal grandeur of their environment. As we gaze upon this awe-inspiring scene and marvel at the frigid majesty of nature, it is difficult for us to believe that in the dark and distant recesses of those snow-capped mountains are tiny patches of land upon which puny little human beings are struggling for a livelihood. Nowhere does Mother Nature seem to minimize the importance of man as much as she does here, although she occasionally bestows upon him a peaceful little vale wherein his struggle for existence is softened and his dwarf-like handiwork is permitted to harmonize with that of her own. Such is the impression we gather as we approach this picturesque little village, behind the snow-peaked portals of which lies one of the most interesting features of a visit to Norway, a community of nomad Laplanders who are believed to be the direct descendants of Norway's aboriginal settlers. With the exception of the Eskimos, no human beings live as far north as the Laplanders. Their language as well as their customs have defied the march of time and the inroads of civilization. 1,000 years ago, Lap mothers rocked their babes to sleep in this same type of cradle, made of reindeer skins, and it is safe to predict that 1,000 years from today, Lap children will be wearing this same style of costume, For there is nothing more remote in the lives of these primitive people than the spirit of change. When these little puppies grow up, they will be most useful members of the colony. For the Laplanders depend upon dogs exclusively for the herding of their precious reindeer, as well as for the drawing of sledges over the winter's snow. At the present time, it is estimated that there are about 22,000 Laps in Norway. In gypsy-like fashion, they roam with their herds of reindeer over an immense tract of land that extends from northern Norway across Sweden and into Finland. In the lazy, carefree life of the mountain Laplander, nothing is of greater importance to him than his reindeer herd, for therein lies the very source of his existence. Aside from being the sole beast of burden for the Laplander, the reindeer provides milk, which is taken as a beverage, and also made into butter and cheese. Even the whey from this milk is fermented into an intoxicating liquor. Reindeer meat is the principal food, and the skins are made into tents, blankets, and clothing. Other parts are used in making gloves, bags, and thread. And last but not least in this remarkable transformation, the antlers of the reindeer are used in making buttons, ornaments, and household utensils. Several hundred reindeer are necessary to maintain the average family. But now it is time to leave these strange people and journey northward until we arrive within the realm of the midnight sun, where we behold a natural phenomenon that is in itself worthy of a visit to Norway. The time now is within a few seconds of midnight, and by our standards of living, it should be dark. But here the sun shines in a golden glow above the horizon, and a weird daylight is all around us. We are in a mystical part of the universe, where the Earth, in making its annual circuit around the sun, continuously exposes a portion of itself to that great orb of light, so that in this region, for several months in the year, the sun never sets. 12 o'clock, and we have come to our journey's end. Reluctantly, we say farewell to Norway, the land of the midnight sun.